Hello and welcome to the second installment of the Pennsylvania School Counselor Association Ramp Camp. The focus for today is going to be on annual student outcome goals. By the end of this presentation, the learning objectives that we hope to meet is that you'll be able to discuss the importance of analyzing school-wide outcome data to align the school counseling program within the school, that you'll understand how to identify gaps in achievement, discipline, and attendance data, and you'll be able to create an annual student outcome goal that is aligned with the ASCA National Model and RAMP scoring rubric. A little bit about who I am. I am Mrs. Carly Kircher-Seekin, and I am a school counselor through the Baldwin-Whitehall School District. In 2020, I earned RAMP while as a 5 through 8 school counselor at Propel McKeesport, and I am a member of the American School Counseling Association, the Pennsylvania School Counseling Association, and the Allegheny County Counseling Association, where I served on the executive board since 2019. While serving on the executive board of the Allegheny County School Counseling Association, I have been the secretary, the vice president, the president, and next school year will be the past president. I've completed the American School Counseling Association School Counseling Leadership Specialist and Diversity and Equity and Inclusion Specialist through the American School Counseling University. And I'm currently working on applying for the American School Counseling Association Certified School Counselor certification this summer. So what are annual student outcomes goals? Annual student outcome goals are based on school-wide outcome data. They promote improved student achievement, attendance, or discipline by identifying trends and identifying gaps in these areas. They give focus to the school counseling program and evaluate the counseling program effectiveness. These goals are written to be implemented at the beginning of the school year and are written using the ASCA SMART Goal template. Section of the RAMP application, you are going to use the following rubric. Throughout this presentation, you will see this rubric a few times. And as we start, we'll go through each of these and what each of these descriptors and summary means so that you'll understand how to be able to get the 7 points needed for this section. The first section that we're going to be talking about is 2.A, the school data summary. If you are unsure where to find this rubric, please go to the American School Counseling homepage. On here, as you can see on my screen, you'll go to Recognition. And from there, you'll go to Recognize ASCA Model Program, or RAMP. As you click on this link, you'll see over here on the downloads that the 2023 scoring rubric is right here. And this is the rubric that we'll be going off of during the presentation. To be able to get it for yourself, just feel free to click that button and it'll download straight to your computer. The first thing that we're going to talk about is completing the school data summary. In order to access the school data summary, you can click at this link below and the template will automatically pop up for you. As you can see here, this is the school data summary that the American School Counseling Association provides you. On here, it is a total of 6 different questions. The first tip that I'm going to give you for the school data summary is to ensure that all sections are complete. Make sure that there are no sections or items that are missed. If you do miss an item or a section, you will lose the whole point for this. The second tip is to make sure that you're focusing on 3 types of school data: academic, attendance, and discipline. While you're focusing on these different types, make sure you're looking for trends because those trends can show systematic issues. While you're looking for those trends, dig a little deeper into the data. Ask yourself, is this actually school-wide data or is this data showing just one grade level? Is it skewed and only showing one student? Or is this a representation of only one subject? If so, then ask yourself, how does that information help me understand what I'm going to do next in my school counseling program? After you answer these questions up top, you're going to go down to question 6. On question 6, you are then going to analyze where there are gaps, where students can benefit from a school counseling program. You can see here that there are examples listed for you. Make sure you use those examples to help you write some specific data priorities. And ensure that those specific data priorities are numerical data. General statements here will not meet the rubric. It is very important that you're using numeric data to help you during these to help you in this section. From the school data summary, you are then going to select a focus for the goal that you want to write. There should be a clear connection with the data that you provide here to the goal that you are going to be creating. A reviewer should be able to read this and be able to see the connection for how you got from here to here. To see an example of a fully completed school data summary, you can click here. On this example, there's a few things that you're going to note. You're going to see that this template is completely filled out. It is not left open, and there are no areas that were not addressed. You're also going to notice on here when you're looking at the data that they focused on the attendance, academic, and discipline data. And they asked themselves some of those deeper questions. What does that mean? Is that data a good representation of what I am trying to do? Later in question 6, you can see that the specific data priorities that are given are not general statements, but are instead numerical data points all the way through. After you complete your school data summary, you're going to move to section 2B, systematic focus. For the systematic focus, you want to make sure that you identify school or system policies, procedures, or practices that create or maintain inequalities relevant to the school. During this section, you're going to list 1 to 2 strategies that could influence systematic change related to this goal. This is the part of your work where you think outside of the group of the students you're going to target and begin to think about the issues in your buildings that create barriers for students or inequalities. While you're doing this, you might come up with a lot, but you do not have to include every single systematic issue in your building. Make sure you give a good overview, and then afterwards list 1 or 2 strategies that your program could do to help change these issues or break down barriers for the students. Here's an example of what this looks like. You can see below that when they identified school or system policies, procedures, or practices that create or maintain inequalities relevant to the school, that they picked 4. These are things that are out of their control. And that counselor asked themselves, what happened in my school that impeded anything that I can do? What types of things created barriers for certain students? And then, after they were able to identify those things, they listed 1 to 2 strategies of ways that they could support or develop change. Now that your systematic focus is completed, you are then going to move to 2.C, the annual student outcome goals. And these are data-based. In order to access the annual student outcome goal plan template, please click here. On my screen, you can see the annual student outcome goal template. Here you will be able to create the goal, and you will see that there's a few other sections that we're going to talk about, including that systematic focus that we just addressed is on this template. Some ramp tips for your annual student outcome goal is that you should develop your goals from the school data summary. Goals should not be the same for every single year, but it instead should be based on the needs of your building. and the needs of your building is going to come from the data from the previous year. If we're making goals that are the same every single year, we're really not looking at how our needs are changing and what other things can be addressed. You should be able to see a direct connection from question number 6 in the school-wide data summary to the goal that you write. The RAMP reviewer should be able to see this connection all the way through and not question how you came to this aspect. While you can have a max of 2 goals, it is highly recommended that you have 1 goal so you can ensure you hit all aspects of the goal. If for some reason you do decide that you want to have 2 goals instead of 1, you do need to remember that you're going to need to complete this plan for every single goal. You also need to remember that the connection needs to link back to both goals. So we cannot have 2 goals randomly out there where one connects all the way through and the documentation is there, but you need to ensure that the connectivity and the documentation in the plan is completed for both of them. When creating the goal, make sure you stretch yourself, but also be realistic. A lot of times people are nervous if they're applying for RAMP that if they don't meet their goal, they won't earn RAMP. But that's not true. Earning RAMP is not based on meeting your goal. If you don't achieve the goal, then it's based on the reflection and what you can do to build on it for the following year. So make sure you do stretch yourself and reach a little higher. But at the same time, make sure that it is realistic and something that could be achievable throughout the year. For Section 2D, you earn a point by making sure that your annual student outcome goal is in the format that ASCA provides. On the annual student outcome goal template, you can see that it already lays out the descriptors for you. Everything in red is where you will fill out your information. So by the final date, which is typically the end of the school year, is when people want to have the information to see if they met their annual goal. However, if you're doing an intervention where it actually is going to end in like the 3rd quarter or semester, this is where you would put that information. You're then going to describe what students are being targeted. So you need to use multiple descriptors to define the specific group of students. You want to make sure that when you're writing this goal, that anybody else who is reading this will know what students were targeted. You're then going to explain if you're going to decrease or increase. So for example, if you have an achievement goal, you might want to increase what standardized test scores students receive. If you are doing something that is related to discipline, though, you might choose to decrease minor offenses as opposed to increase. You're then going to describe the desired outcome that you'll be addressing. Again, you need to be specific so that anyone reading the goals knows exactly what is going to change. The last section is all numbers. Make sure that this section is a number. You're going to figure out exactly what the percent change was, and you are going to do this by adding what the baseline data is, so the number that you started off with, to the target data, the number you want to end up with. I know that sometimes when we're talking about goals, this is a little bit of the scary part because we're discussing math. So the way that you would calculate a percent change is you are going to first start by determining the difference between a baseline and a target number. So for example, my baseline is 40 and I want to get to 70. So I would start by subtracting 70 and 40 and getting 30. I would then know that my difference is 30, and I would divide that by my baseline number. This will give me a decimal, and I will then convert the decimal by multiplying that with 100 to get my percentage change, which is 75%. If you're unsure exactly if you're increasing or decreasing, a good rule of thumb is that a negative number indicates a decrease and a positive number indicates an increase. If at any point you are still a little unsure of how to calculate the percent change, ask somebody that you know is helpful with math. Maybe it's the math teacher in the building, maybe it's another counselor. And if all else fails, there's a lot of different programs online that you can use to ensure that you are calculating your percentage correctly. Once you put all of this into the format, you are going to see the ASCA goal formats. On here, I included some goal examples right from the National Model Implementation Guide, 4th edition book. You will see that there are 4 different examples, and some are examples that deal with academic, some are examples that deal with attendance, and some are examples that deal with discipline. You will also see that they are across different grade levels, so this can be used in an elementary, a high school, or even in a middle school. The first goal example is that by May 20th, 2020, students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade who failed math during the previous school year will decrease by 20% from 32 students to 25 students. That is an academic example from an elementary school. The next one is also an academic example from an elementary school, but I thought it was a really good example of explaining of really going into detail about some of the things they want to see. So by May 2020, 3rd grade students who scored less than 192, which is either novice or apprentice level, on the 2019 Fall Measure of Academic Progress, the MAP test, will improve scores by 50%, from 38 scoring below 192 in the fall to 19 students scoring below in the spring. You can see in here that they were very specific, even down to writing out exactly what MAP stands for, so that a reviewer would be able to know, okay, MAP stands for Measure of Academic Progress. This is a standardized test. They also made sure that they gave an exact score and gave out what the level means, as opposed to writing just novice or apprentice. So that way they could see, anybody could see what a novice or apprentice level is. The next is an attendance goal. So by June of 2021, the average daily attendance for 8th grade will increase by 2.8%, from 92.4%, which is in the previous school year, to 95% in the current year. And then lastly is an example within discipline. So by May of 2020, the number of discipline referrals involving threaten, intimidate, and or physical contact with another student will decrease by 20%, from 137, which is the previous school year, to 110 in the current school year. If you'd like to see more goal examples, please look inside of that implementation guide. They give a bunch of different examples all the way around, and it can be helpful to see that and see what your goal should exactly look like after you put it in that format. So now that your goal is written and you have it all completed, you're going to move on to 2.E, which is the Annual Student Outcome Goal Plan. In here, you're asked to collect supplemental data. So you are going to collect information from stakeholders who know the students. So this is asking, what do the teachers report? What are administrators saying? What are parents saying? What are other students saying? What is the community saying? And then summarize that information from each group. This is supposed to help you gain insight about possible factors that are contributing to identified problems or issues. It helps you dig deeper into the data to understand what you can do as a school counselor and in your school counseling program to help meet that goal. Remember, as a school counselor, you are not doing this alone. You instead should be working with your administrative team You should be understanding things from stakeholder perspectives, students' perspectives, so that you're working on these goals together. The next section, 2.F, is where you identify what student standards are going to be targeted. You can target up to 2 mindsets or behaviors. But just like when we're talking about goals, you might be able to have up to 2, but consider focusing in on only 1. It is okay to only focus on one mindset or behavior standard, and it also gives you a little bit more direction. But again, if you do decide to go with 2, just make sure that they both align. Now that you have finished your supplemental data, you are going to use that to inform the next section. From those student standards, you will then be able to create learning objectives. The learning objectives are what students know and are able to do to demonstrate meeting the need. So those items will then feed in to the assessment items, which will align together again. Remember, all of this is connecting all the way through. You should be able to see that clear connection. When you take those student learning objectives, you're then going to create your pre and post-test assessment. Take exactly what you have for your mindset behaviors and turn them into the learning objectives, and then use it for your Likert scale. The pre and post-test assessment must be a Likert scale. Now, this one is a scale from 1 to 4, and this could be beneficial to middle or high school. But if you are in the primary or even elementary, or depending on the type of student that you're working with, you can also use a smiley face or another method, but just make sure that it's a Likert scale. After you have completed that, you're going to move on to your reflection. So in this reflection, you are going to ask yourself, how do others see your role? What does a school counselor do? And what are they involved in? These student outcome goals should affect the stakeholders' perception of the school counseling program and the school counselor's role, but it's up to you to decide how. Some last minute tips is to make sure that you connect everything. And then also make sure that during this reflection piece that you answer only the question asked and adhere to the word limit. This is all about quality over quantity. To see an example of an annual student outcome goal plan completed, you can click here. On here, you can see that the information of where the data came from is above. The plan is completely filled out, and they are including end dates as well as specific information. They're saying if it'll increase, and we can tell that based on this goal that we know that the desired outcome is proficient or advanced scores. The bottom part is all in numbers only. That is what it should be. It should not be written out, but should be numbers only and easy to understand. There's supplemental data that's coming from the stakeholders so that the school counselor can understand the information a little bit more. There's the systematic focus so they can determine if there's other things and barriers that are in place. And then from there, they've identified 2 mindsets and behaviors. We're able to figure out what the learning objectives were, and then put that all into the pre and post assessment that they'll use during this activity. So now that we have went over the section 2 of the RAMP application, just want to give you a few final reminders. Make sure you're using the templates that ASCA provides. Those templates serve as a guide, and you do have to upload them throughout the application. Using the templates will help you ensure that you get the max points and that you are doing everything correctly. Make sure that the goals that you use are based on the school outcome data, and they are based on either academic, attendance, or discipline. That school outcome data is very important because we are looking at what exactly happened the year before so that way we can base our goals on that. We should not have the same goals every single year because our data is not going to be the same every single year. So we need to figure out how the school can improve and the information that is happening from there to be able to make accurate goals. While these goals are going to drive your school counseling program, it's not something you should do on your own. They should be connected with what the school-wide goals are too. So collaborate with your administrator. Maybe you decide to make the goal together. And then after you have your goal, share it out with stakeholders. People need to know what you're doing in your program. They need to know what the goals are. They need to see that there's one common goal so that you can work together to meet it. In addition, the more that you share out your work, the better understanding other people have of what a school counselor does and the school counseling program provides to the students. It's also okay not to meet your goal. While you can feel a little defeated when you don't meet your goal, remember that even if you don't, it's important to reflect on why you didn't. If we don't meet it, while it can be sad and you put so much information in there, that information of why you didn't meet it is really powerful as well and can help you decide if you need to focus in a different area or if there's other systematic issues at hand that you didn't even realize were there. Remember, when you're doing this, you really should only choose 1 to 2 goals max, and it's highly recommended that you only choose one. You want to make sure that there's clear connections all the way through. So only choosing one ensures that you are not going to miss anything the whole way through. So thank you for watching the annual student outcome goals presentation. The next one that we are going to have up is on the classroom and group mindset and behavior action plan. Thank you.